So the second round of the GT4 European Series Northern Cup to be held at Brands Hatch will take place very soon indeed. The victory in the first race went to the 100 Ginetta cars. Ginetta G55, Tom Hibbert started and Charlie Robertson took it over to win ahead of the Ecris BMW, and Charlie Robertson will be starting that number 100 Ginetta from the inside, the pole position on the front row. You can see the black and white car over by the pit wall. Certainly this morning's win looked very controlled. Track temperature 15 degrees. We had it higher yesterday. It was a cold wind, but humidity is easing off. It was 70% earlier today, so still cool, but rain I think will stay away. The cloud base is high. Track in absolutely perfect conditions. There, the Ginetta G55, very, very nimble around the back of the circuit. Doesn't have the power in the straight line of some of its rivals, but in Charlie Robertson, who'll be starting off, a very, very handy driver indeed. Of course, races prototypes now as well. The inception of the LMP3 class 2 years ago. Baby prototypes, if you will. Charlie Robertson became the European Le Mans Series champion in that category. I just saw Tom Hibbert, his teammate, standing in front of the car. He'll be taking over. Again, this is a 1 hour race, and between 25 and 35 minutes into this race is the 10-minute pit stop window when there's a very simple driver change. There is a minimum time you're allowed to spend at a halt, and one of the teams earlier got it slightly wrong, and they came in for a 1 second stop and go penalty. You think how much time you lose going down to stop and then going again. This car, the number 9 McLaren, is starting outside of front row. It started on the back row in the first race. Luke Brahms didn't make a lot of progress, but then Duncan Heisman, who'll be starting this afternoon's race, really got a move on and moved it up towards the sharper end of the grid. Got up to 7th place overall. We'll be starting from 2nd place in one of the McLaren 570Ss that are really becoming very popular indeed. And one of the things about GT4 racing is more and more manufacturers are getting cars ready to come out to play, to sell to customers. It's very much a customer formula. Here's another 570S that will be starting from the inside of the second row. Joe Osborne will be he'll be starting the race and handing over to David Pattison, his sectionarian teammate. But Joe, very, very handy driver indeed. Probably got a quip. He wants to mention it to his crew. Gets them to lean in and find out. But for the Tolman Motorsport McLaren, that's a much better position to be starting the race from. Obviously, he's got to consider what he can do about the Ginetta that will start in front of him. But I think with the 2 McLarens along, in fact, 3 McLarens on the grid from 2nd through to 4th, it's going to be quite a challenge into the first corner, into Paddock Hill Bend. Charlie Robertson will hope he can do what his teammate could manage and get to Paddock Hill first. But Tom Hibbert, great start, and I tell you what, let's go down to the grid because we're going to have a little chat with him. Down with Dakota.
Tom, now you've got one race already done and dusted. On to the next one. Who's your main competition?
Yeah, the main competition is going to be the McLarens in this one. Obviously, quick again down the straight lines. I think we'll be all right down the back bits, the fast bits. But yeah, the main thing is to get a gap, and then I think we'll be able to pull away. But it's just getting that gap.
Now, you had a really good pit stop last race. How important is it to get a really good pit stop in?
Very important. I mean, the last pit stop we did was going over the pit line 10th over, so it's really important. I don't think if we hadn't done that, we probably would have struggled to get the BMW. It just beat it on coming out of the pit, so yeah, it's really important.
Thank you. Good luck.
So that was Dakota down with Tom Hibbert. His teammate Charlie Robertson, he's having a quick word leaning over the door. The grid is starting to be cleared of personnel. There, number 100 Ginetta starting from pole position. The Las Moras Racing orange and black McLaren 570S starting at the outside of the front row. We'll have Duncan Heisman at the wheel for the rolling start. Then 2 more McLarens on the left. Tolman Motorsport, number 56 on the right. From Verschoor, Equipe Verschoor, Dutch team. A lot of Dutch interest in the championship. I think there's a gap in the grid further back. Number 26 Ginetta, didn't see a lot of that in the early race, but it's got Soil Irie, a former front runner in Formula 3000. We'll be showing that with Neil Stevenart. There is the distinctive top raised on the 74 KTM Crossbow. Only one of those in the race at the moment. The gap is behind 112. Of course, it's the number 30 Benjamin Ricci car that didn't quite make it into the pits when it came in for its pit stop, slammed into the pit entry wall, so no surprise that's missing. The number 1 Porsche is missing as well. One and only Nissan in the race. There's 370Z entered by Sean Walkinshaw Racing. That's on the right-hand side of the screen. And again, huge mixture. Aston Martin Vantages, lots of Porsche Caymans, a few Porsche 911s, Maserati Gran Turismos, the MC on the left. You can see another Porsche Cayman on the right. Every colour scheme you can imagine. We can keep working our way all the way to penultimate row of the grid. On the left, The number 11, that's the one and only Sin. And the right-hand car at the back, number 20, Cora Schumacher, married to Ralph, starting the Bezaplast Cayman from 30th position on the grid, effectively 29th, because of course we saw the gap where the number 30 Porsche has left vacant halfway down the grid on the right-hand side. As we look at the field, they will be setting off very soon as the gaps in the pit wall are being closed by the marshals. Our camera on the Segway is at the back of the grid. You can see just behind Cora Schumacher's Porsche. And these cars should be heading off in the next 10 seconds or so. 5 seconds, and a sighter lap for the Grand Prix circuit here at Brands Hatch. Off goes the Audi safety car at the front. Poleman Charlie Robertson leads the field away. Of course, we want them to come back round in side-by-side, 2x2 grid formation. So one last sighter lap of the Grand Prix circuit here at Brands Hatch. And as we've seen, provides great racing, but you really, really have to work your ground beyond the first few corners to make overtaking manoeuvres really stick and pay off. We've got two classes. We've got the Pro class, and the best place of the cars in the AM class is number 76, which is also one of Auto Orlando Sports' two Porsche 911s. Manuele Mengozzi will start that from 21st position. So here is the starting grid. Charlie Robertson in his Ginetta on pole position. He'll hand over to Tom Hibbert. Then a trio of McLarens from Las Moras Racing, from Tolman Motorsport, Equipe Verschure. Then behind them, the car that will start fifth, finished second in the opening race. Ricardo van der Ende will start that Ecris BMW, and Sohail Ayari in his Ginetta. Then the best of the Aston Martins, Matt Nicol-Jones will start at 62 from 7th. It was a feature in the first race, but sadly ended up in a gravel trap. And then you come down to the world of Aston Martins and Porsche Caymans a little further back. And as you can see, the field running through quite a mix of cars. But the fact we have 29 cars coming to start, we've lost 2 due to collisions, but it just goes to show this is the Northern Cup element of the GT4 European Series, and the Southern Cup in its opening round down at Nagaro over Easter weekend had a good 26 cars, so that brings it to about 56 cars. A couple of years ago this championship was averaging about 20 cars on the grid, so it just shows how the growth has just carried on. This weekend we're missing a lot of the KTM crossbows. The only one in the race is there, but sometimes we have 6 to 8 of those distinctive cars with those really unusual openings to come all over. So GT4 class growing, obviously in the British Championship as well. In fact, it's the predominant class now in the British GT Championship. Next time out will be at the end of the month at Snetterton. But right now it's all eyes focused on this international field as coming towards Stirling, going through Stirling, bunching up now, trying to get into 2x2 formation behind the Audi safety car that has its lights out. That means it will be turning into the pit lane, and of course it's up to the two drivers on the front row to behave. Charlie Robertson will be on the right, we have the tighter line around the corner. On the outside be Duncan Heisman, the Dutch racer for so many years in the Porsche Super Cup. He will be trying to put his McLaren in the lead, and right behind them they've got the two other McLarens at the front end of the field. You've got Joe Osborne tucked in behind the pole starter, and on the right side it should be Jabba Moore sharing with Matthew George. So the safety car, wait for it. It's going to take the later pull into the pit end. There it goes, 2x2, all lined up beautifully. The last car's under the bridge, coming into clearways. The first two cars waiting to put the hammer down. Will it be the Ginetta? Charlie Robertson leading into the first corner, waiting for the lights on the gantry to go out. Or will there be a flying start from any of the McLarens around him? They're starting second, third and fourth. The Ecris BMW trying to make a move. And Duncan Heisman gets his nose in front, but he's not far enough ahead because braking as late as he dare to take the lead into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time is our pole starter. And now Joe Osborne's trying to make a move to try and get second place on the run up to the hill. Which McLaren is going to be in second place? Nose in front, but on the outside line means that Osborne has to make do with third. But the M4 BMW has gained one position. It's put Schaber Moore back and Ricardo van der Ende up to fourth, but it looks as though it's job done. Running wide by our race leader Charlie Robertson, 2-3 abreast. Behind in the middle of the pack is the Bullet Racing McLaren of Andy Merrick, but the job was done very well indeed. And now we do have that change for second place. A messy exit from Graham Hill Bend cost Duncan Heisman time. He ran over the curb, and that gave Joe Osborne the gap he was looking for, took the advantage and moved into second place by the time they got to Surtees. Now he's going to see what he can do to keep Charlie Robertson within sight, because there were 3 safety car periods, deployments, during the opening 1-hour race, and each time the lead that had been pulled out by the number 100 Ginetta was hauled back in, but each time able to deliver and pull clear again. Now let's see, can Joe Osborne in the Tolman Motorsport McLaren do anything about it? The 56 McLaren ahead of the 9. And then the 10 has dropped back to 5th place as the BMW from Ekris Motorsports makes its advance. Nose to tail, 112, that's sort of a mid-grid car. That's Pavel Lefterov, the Bulgarian racer. And that's not where you want to be going. One of the Allied Racing Caymans over the curbs and beyond, but luckily not snapping away out of Sterling's. But the advantage first to second from Robertson back to Joe Osborne. Looks as though it's a good second. Heisman making an attack going on the outside line. 0.89 of a second is the gap first to second. Looks though Osborne's done enough to remain in second place, but coming out of Paddock Hill Bend, certainly third to fourth was getting ever closer, because Ricardo van der Ende, you can see him turning into Druids behind the orange McLaren there of Duncan Heisman, but certainly down the start-finish straight, that BMW M4 has some really, really mighty poke. And again, I can see that under acceleration, catching the McLaren down Cooper Straight behind the paddock, turning left now and up over the rise. You can see it's being crested by the Ginetta, and those behind coming up, gets a little bit light at the top, and then they dive down into Pilgrim's Drop. They go under the bridge and start to take the rise on the Grand Prix loop up towards Hawthorne and beyond. His 10th place downwards, one of the Aston Martins in the middle there. That's in 9th place, that's Matthew George in the 144, entered by Generation AMR. These cars do look great. And of course, 2 driver races. There we are, 1.437. It says 1.8. It says 0.89 on my screen, but that's further around the lap. In fact, that's what's happened. Half a second gained in the first half of the lap by our race leader Charlie Robertson over the chasing Joe Osborne. But we know from the Ginetta drivers, they think their advantage is on these twisty corners out at the back of the circuit. A very nimble car, G55. Another Porsche Cayman dropping wheels over the curb at Sterling, but getting away with it. 2 wheels on the circuit, or 2 wheels off the circuit, fine. 4 wheels off the circuit, certainly not. Right over the start-finish line for the second time at racing speed. It looks like it's a 2-second advantage, 1.76 seconds. Joe Osborne trying to hang on, but he's only a quarter of a second ahead Duncan Heisman. Super, super close. 3rd place, still Ricardo van der Ende, and Saba Moore in the 5th place. McLaren is trying to close in all over again now. I've just had rectification. It is Matthew Graham. That team visual keep changing mind who is in the car, but it's Matthew Graham in the McLaren that's running in 5th place. Now, what can Ricardo van der Ende do? Very strong driver lineup. He'll be handing over to Max Cobalt, but right now he's got Matthew Graham all over his tail. Those McLaren's looking very, very well handling indeed, and tucked in behind is the Aston Martin of Matt Nicol-Jones. That's the number 62 from Academy Motorsport, and he's got Neil Stevenart. I was expecting so, Alari. They must have swapped them as well in the number 26 Ginetta. 112, Pavel Lefterov. Tucked in behind, he's got Andy Merrick in the Bullet Racing McLaren. The team run out of Spain by Dave Price. Jones trying to hang on to those ahead. The Stevenart Irie Ginetta getting quite over the curbs in its battle for what would be 7th position. See how the curbing at Sterling's really unsettled his car. Now is there a move coming? Is there going to be a change for, well, I thought it might be a change for 2nd place, but in fact look at the pace of the Ekris BMW M4, much quicker than the McLaren's, through clearways, through Clark Curve, trying to take a run on Duncan Heisman, a fellow Dutch racer, down into Paddock Hill Bend. But as the further he went along the straight, the more the sleeker shaped McLaren seemed to find some advantage. But in terms of sheer punch out of corners, the Ekris M4 BMW really has some legs. So Joe Osborne losing ground now on our race leader. Just to touch on the AM battle, best placed car is still the number 76 car, Porsche, one of the 2 Porsches from Autolando Sport. Lost 1 position, running around with Emanuele Mengozzi in 22nd place overall. Seems as though Charlie Robertson has got this race under control. It also seems the Ekris BMW M4 made a bit of a mess of getting through Surtees. Now a gap has opened between itself and the 2 McLarens ahead, and the McLaren behind with Matthew Graham, number 10, you can see it there from the keeper ashore, right onto its tail. So, don't know where that momentum got lost by the Ekris M4. It was much, much closer when they went around Druids. The 2 McLarens ahead have got away. Matt Nicol-Jones in the number 62. Aston Martin trying his best to hang on behind. There he is in the background of the shot, just going past the corner, the gravel bed, in fact, where he got that vantage. Beached, brought out the safety car during the first race. Shame, it was just really starting to make some progress there. Started 12th, it worked its way up to 5th place. This race it's in 6th place and hanging on there. Another Aston Martin not so far back. They're 144, still running around in 9th place. Matthew George at the wheel. So race leader 3.5 seconds clear for our race leader Charlie Robertson over Joe Osborne. Suddenly, brighter conditions starting to squint in the commentary box. It's been a very grey day. This can start to change the heat on the track surface. A few place changes further down the order, going over the start-finish line. But right now, looking at that battle between Stephen Arndt and number 69, Peter Turting, driver who raced in the DTM many moons ago. And now we're starting to see a bit of a change. The Ecris M4, running in 4th place overall, has caught back up with Duncan Heisman, and in turn I think Duncan's actually just fallen back slightly, because in 2nd place Joe Osborne now doesn't have him for company. Great little battle continues. The red, white and yellow Ginetta still ahead of Peter Turting's number 69 Porsche. That's entered by Turting Muskens Racing. And here comes the move from Peter Turting up the inside. That looks as though it's an irresistible move, but it has been resisted, which goes to show that Stephen are not prepared to let anybody through. Now they go into the dip. This is a very fast part of the circuit at Westfield, and the track keeps dropping away. Get into the compression at Dingledale, and certainly the Aston Martin tucked in behind with Matthew George at the wheel, fancies to getting stuck in, and behind them, being held up by all of them, certainly he'd be quicker than all of them, is the number 33 McLaren. It's got Andy Merrick in it, really great driver, and he's going to see what he can do, but he's got 3 cars battling for position in his path. He wants to get past. He passed Pavel Lefterov last time around, so Andy Merrick, he'll hand over later in the race to Stephen Patrick, but he's in 10th place, and I don't think we've seen the last of his passing. Trying to pick up another place, going past the Aston Martin and Matthew George on the start-finish straight. He'll be braver down into Paddock Hill Bend. Another place gained. At 69, fleetingly got ahead of the 26 Ginetta. Had to hand it all back again. McLaren went wide, but has done just enough not to hand the position he gained back to Matthew George in the 144 Aston Martin. So, as I said, getting brighter here at Brands Hatch. Great to see the Grand Prix circuit, the full loop out through Hawthorns, Westfield and beyond, being used very hard. What we're seeing in this race is that the 62 Aston Martin, Matt Nicol-Jones, not being caught by those behind, but not catching those ahead in that 62 Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. Stephen Arndt still holding on to 7th place in the number 26 Ginetta, ahead of Peter Turting, the 69 Porsche, ahead of Andy Merrick in the 33 McLaren. That's the car that is likely to do the overtaking. We've already seen him pick off Matthew George's Aston Martin in the background of that grouping. He's broken up the grouping, and now Matthew George decided, well, actually, no, I'm going to pass you back. Didn't see any particular mistake at Westfield from Andy Merrick, but Matthew George decided there was half a chance, and he took it absolutely beautiful for Generation AMR. So Andy Merrick's got to do it all over again, and in fact quite a gap has opened between him and the Aston Martin ahead of him. So Charlie Robertson onto his 7th lap. His advantage is about, well, it's not about anything, it's 4.8 seconds precisely ahead of Joe Osborne, who's 1.4 seconds clear of Duncan Heisman. Heisman being kept on his toes, just under a quarter of a second clear of the BMW. You can see how close he is, the number 8 Ecris BMW. Ricardo van der Ende, who in turn has got Matthew Graham right on his tail in the Keep Vachon McLaren. There it is, just in the background of your shot. So the orange McLaren 570S, entered by Las Moras Racing, one of the Dutch teams, one of the many Dutch teams in the GT4 European Series. About 3 Dutch entries in a row, Las Moras Racing. And of course we get to Ecris, and then behind Equipe Vachon, so very strong presence in this championship. Must say the McLaren 570S looks very, very well balanced around the circuit. Very different profile of cars, the BMW M4 that's sitting between it. Very different driving position. But clearly very, very effective indeed. Only a handful of drivers still setting their fastest laps. You can feel with just over 10 minutes of the race, the tyres maybe have lost their very sweetest edge, but certainly the person who can lap fastest. The fastest lap in this morning's race was 1 minute 32.299 seconds, set by Charlie Robertson. Thus far in this race he's done, well, almost precisely a tenth of a second slower, but he may yet pick up his pace. He's lapping happily in the 1 minute 32s. The likes of the Ecris BMW in 4th place could only manage 1 minute 33.7. That is why the gap between 1st and 2nd keeps on increasing. So So Charlie Robertson all very well clear of Joe Osborne. Osborne not in the hunt for the lead. Now let's take a look, a replay of the start. All very tidy, but the McLaren on the outside, the front row, the right-hand side of your screen. Duncan Heisman at the wheel. Gets his nose in front, but he's on the outside line for Paddock Hill Bend. Then Charlie Robertson, the number 100 Ginetta, brakes as late as he dares. He slides wide, and then Heisman was slightly compromised, and this allowed Joe Osborne in the grey McLaren to try and make a move. But Osborne, in turn, gets himself on the outside position. And it all looks pretty tidy up there, but it's not always easy to get all those cars, 30-plus cars, through a corner. Eric being given one that maybe did the pushing. It was, yes, it should have been helping hand. So an advantage he's going to nurse. There it is, second place. Third place, the number 9 McLaren. Fourth place, the number 8 BMW. And hanging on in fifth place, Matthew George in the number 10, Equipe Vershaw McLaren. And then just in the background of the shot, every now and again you pick out the black and gold Aston Martin Vantage, one of two from Academy Motorsport, in the hands of Matt Nicol-Jones, but he can't live with the pace of the McLarens, the BMW, and most notably the Ginetta at the lead of the field. Duncan Heisman very defensive, holding the inside line on the way. Now he's coming across the back marker. That's probably Cora Schumacher by reckoning. Married Ralph quite some long while ago, but she stayed very nicely out of the way. That should be the Beza Group Racing team, sharing with Frano Kovac. And then suddenly made it look very easy indeed. I don't really know why Duncan Heisman got it wrong there, but the Ecris BMW didn't need a second invitation down into Graham Hill Bend. Has got past, and in the blink of an eye, also trying his luck to see if he can push the Dutch racer back, is Matthew George. Side by side, the two McLarens now fighting over fourth position. It's all changed, and the Equipe Vershaw entry got his nose ahead, but you can be sure Duncan Heisman's not going to back off. He's got the better line, because the next corner from their point of view is a right-hander. And into Hawthorne they go. Now the number 9 holds on to the fourth position. Just lost third, looks like might lose fourth, may yet lose fourth, and clattering the curbs on the turning point for Westfield. That's a scary place to be side by side. Matthew George, well, he's braved it out, and Duncan Heisman now in the space of half a lap has gone from third to fourth and fourth to fifth. Now, just to show how much the pace has dropped off as they were racing side by side, Matt Nicol-Jones' Aston Martin is pretty much close to the tail of the group ahead. And the group ahead comprises the first car he sees is Duncan Heisman, the orange McLaren. Ahead of him, Matthew George, who was so brave through Westfield in his Equipe Vershaw McLaren. That is third through to fifth places. Sorry, fourth through to sixth places. So Ricardo van der Ende, just saw him going out of shot in his BMW. He is in third place. Joe Osborne is second in the Tolman Motorsport McLaren 570S, but leading by over 7 seconds is that man Charlie Robertson, the number 100 Ginetta, looking very tidy indeed. Very, very tidy. Back down the middle of the order, Street Art Racing, the 007 Aston Martin. Started by Denis Dupont. He'll hand over to Jerome Demey. Another 10 minutes until the pit lane will be open. And there was 111, who's just had a drive-through penalty. We saw that incident on the opening lap, and we're sure that is why he's visited the pits 10 minutes before anybody else is welcomed in. In fact, there's another car sitting in the pit lane. Just try and work out for you who that might be. And it's Andy Merrick, unfortunately, the 33 Bullet Race and Racing McLaren, going very well. It was in about 10th place, but we suddenly saw it lose a bit of ground. So alas, there must have been some problem that's caused that to sit in the pits. Been there for, I should have looked to my right, for about 3 laps. Who was, if you remember, this really segues together very, very nicely. He was the car that was given the push by 111. We've just seen 111 coming out, having had its drive-through penalty, but driving in but not out is the 33 Bullet McLaren. Oh, another McLaren problem. Duncan Heisman suddenly going slowly out. So he was fighting over fourth place. Did he just put a wheel on the dirt and recover? Yes, he's getting it up to speed. There was smoke, but in fact it was probably just dirt being kicked up in the air. But the fact he's fighting with 112, that's Pavel Lefterov, that means they're fighting over 10th position. So in the last couple of laps it's been problem time. Oh, if you're going to go off, don't take your teammate off as you come back into the circuit. I'm afraid that is 21 and 22, the two Allied Racing Porsche Caymans. They were fighting over 17th position, and it was Jamie Vandenbalk and Timothy Stuppel and haven't quite made it back in, well, just into our view in the stadium section of the circuit. Didn't see the lead up to that. No surprise, there are waved yellow flags. They'll pick those up as they come out of Stirling's, but maybe one was slow through Stirling's because the other had ran over the curves. But anyhow, they were side by side and then rotating and off into the tyre wall. So a bit of a disaster for Allied Racing there. Joe Osborne on screen, the 56 Tolman Motorsport McLaren. Handling that very well indeed, bouncing around the curves, but he's staying 7 to 8 seconds behind the race leader. His advantage over the third place runner, the Ecris BMW M4, still around 3 seconds. SC safety car, not the first time. In fact, the first race we had 3 of them. And just a little word from the pit lane, it's a gearbox issue. That does make sense, unfortunately, for the Bullet Racing McLaren in the pit lane. So that advantage of 8 seconds will come down to not a great deal as Charlie Robertson crosses the start-finish line. Safety car has got to pick him up at some point while they clear those 2 Allied Racing Porsche Caymans that clattered off just before they got to clearways, just where the Indy circuit joins the full Grand Prix loop. So there's the second place BMW, third place BMW. And let's see if we can make head or tail of what happened to, well, they're side by side. One of the Allied Racing cars, well, I don't really understand. One must have been, the one on the right must have been slow through Stirling's, came back onto the circuit, and I still can't really understand why the one in the middle of the circuit would have come to blows with the other. But either way, Team Boss will maybe need to keep those drivers separated in the team tent after the race, because they're both out of the race. I don't think the damage is enormously heavy. 21 seems to have picked up a bit more of a clatter than 22, but 21, Jamie Vandenbouw and Timothy Stoppel in 22 will maybe not be having a conversation now. Maybe better they don't stand side by side. They're both over the barriers. You can see them with their helmets on. A little bit of debris in the track, but not as much as one would have feared to start with. Anyhow, those have to be moved away. Very fast point of the circuit. And there is a safety car. Yeah, maybe it's best you keep your helmets on. As the 2 drivers talk to each other, Timothy Stoppel and Jamie Vandenbouw. Jamie's in the black overalls. But again, good to see those replays, but couldn't quite work out why the car in the middle of the circuit came. Well, let's take a look at it from behind. They're side by side. In fact, it was a better run from the one that's in the middle of the circuit. I don't yet understand. The car on the right of your picture was running down the edge of the circuit. He wasn't changing angle. I don't understand why they clattered. They went off to the right from the driver's point of view, and then the cars were spat across the circuit. Well, there's the wheel missing. That got ripped off 21, I believe, and spat across to the other side of the circuit, where they've come to a halt. Those will have to be rescued, and wheel and drive shaft. A lot of grass markings on that one. That's obviously where it went through the ride just before it managed to fit under the Pirelli bridge. You can see the Pirelli logoed bridge in the background. All the drivers have come past this incident a couple of times now, so they'll know it's there. They'd like it not to be there, because in 5.5 minutes' time the pit window would open for pit stops. We do have movement in the pit lane, but it's only the 33 McLaren. But the good news is it's getting going again, but whether that's just to drive back to the paddock, I do not know. It's not driving with any particular speed down the pit lane. It should still be Andy Merrick on board if it is going to rejoin the race. But maybe he's realised he's got to stop. Yeah, in fact, he's going to have to stop and join the end of the train of cars. He's going to come back in the race, but the train of cars is very stretched out as it goes past them on the start-finish straight. So just to reiterate, at the time the safety car came out, it was Charlie Osborne, Charlie Robertson leading through. But why did this incident happen? Let's take one more look, this time in slow-mo. 2 Porsche Caymans. The one that was 22 came out of the corner ahead. 21 starts making a run on the right-hand side, but 22 decides he wants to come across a bit. I don't know if he got touched by any of the ones alongside him or just behind him. I have no understanding why. Let's see if we can gain image notes. They've already been spat off to the right from the driver's point of view. Now they're spinning around. There's the wheel that went missing. Get very high in the air off 21. That's his right rear wheel. Doors flying open, bodywork flying all over the place. Both drivers are absolutely fine, but safety car is out, and yet again the lead built up by the number 100 Ginetta has been scrubbed down to nothing. Don't forget, in the first 1 hour race that happened on 3 occasions, so we're nearly at the 1/3 distant point of the race. In fact, we just passed it, and the lead on our timing screens is 0.398 of a second. They're waiting for the safety car to withdraw, but they've got to recover those 2 Allied Racing Caymans. One is now being pulled away by a flatbed truck, But I think we're going to pretty much get these cars shifted, and then the pit window will be open. These cars are not necessarily as easy to drag away as one would hope, with wheels missing. So, Charlie Robertson leading in the number 100 Ginetta. You can see it tucked in behind, headlights ablaze, is the Tolman Motorsport McLaren. Joe Osborne at the wheel. Ricardo van der Ende just showing three very different shapes of car in the first three positions. His Ecris BMW M4, that's number 8. Fourth place is Matthew Graham in the number 10 Equipe Vauxhall McLaren. Fifth place, Matt Nicol-Jones, the 62 Aston Martin. And so on down the order. Neil Stevenart is tucked around in a second Ginetta, number 26 in 6th place overall. And the best of the Porsche Caymans thus far in 7th, Peter Turting in number 69. Spectator banking, nice and packed with people. The car park's packed with supercars. That's been one of the features here at Brands Hatch this weekend. If you've got a supercar, bring it down. And we saw a whole cluster of those out enjoying some laps around the circuit during the lunch break, and they'll be out again at the end of the day. People still moving around the Grand Prix Loop in particular to find great vantage points, and that's one of the beauties of the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch. Others just taking this quiet interlude. The race is still going on. The safety car still leading them round. Lights flashing on the roof. The second of those Porsche Caymans still not being shifted. So these drivers know they have at least this further lap before the safety car can withdraw. But in another 2 minutes and 15 seconds, the pit stop window will be open. You can see drivers getting ready, and you'd think at the end of this lap, there's Max Cobalt. He'll be taking over the third place BMW from Ricardo van der Ende. Up and down the pit lane, there's Tom Hibbert getting ready to take over from race leader Charlie Robertson. What you have in the first race, one driver starts, another one takes over, then that order is reversed for the second of the two races on this packed Sunday at Brands Hatch. So for the drivers, frustrating, particularly those who are making good ground at the end of the opening driving stint, has been not curtailed, but simply behind the safety car they can't prove their art, prove their mettle, and also for any driver not to have as much racing time on the Grand Prix Loop at Brands Hatch as they were hoping to get is very frustrating indeed. Still a magical stretch of tarmac, particularly once you get onto that Grand Prix Loop. You turn out of Surtees, cars are going through there right now, up over the crest. There's Charlie Robertson in the number 100 Ginetta. He'll be keeping his eyes peeled. And not surprising, the incident that's caused this safety car period between cars number 21 and 22 teammates will be investigated after the race, because it did seem to my eye to be rather an avoidable incident. And of course accidents can happen, but I didn't see any reason why the 22 in the middle of the track pulled over on the 21 on the outside. But the net effect was they both went off the circuit, clattered into the barriers, and then went into the tyre wall on the far side. I can still see both the cars from my commentary position, therefore they have not been cleared away to a place of safety. So we could have that pit stop window. Well, in fact, safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Maybe they're confident enough they've tucked them away to the side of the circuit. Yes, they are a bit further away. So, right, let's go racing again. And the pit stop, you'll see, the pit stop window can open in 20 seconds from now as the field goes through Dingledell, up to Sheen Curve, all at very abated speed. They'll go to the corner, out of which the problem started that led to this incident with the two cars off at the side of the circuit. Here we are. This is Pilgrims. Yet neither of them ran over the curbs. I thought that might have been the cause of the incident. One had run over the curbs, had to lose momentum, lose balance, rejoined the circuit and clattered into the teammate. And that was not the case. Pit window, as you can see, is open between 35 minutes on the clock and 25. Well, the front runners aren't bothering to come in the pits. They're going to try and see what they can do to stretch themselves out, because Charlie Robertson lost a very handy lead indeed. Now he's being challenged down to Paddock Hill Bend by Joe Osborne, seeing if he can get his McLaren in front. He can't, because again Robertson's so late on taking any momentum out of his Ginetta down into Paddock Hill Bend. He holds on. The Ecris M4 gets closer and closer to the 56 McLaren, but Joe Osborne holds on in second place. But his shot to try and wrestle the lead away from Charlie Robertson's Ginetta has come to naught so far. How tidy are they out of Graham Hill Bend? That's good. If you get it too far over the curbs, you have to come off the power bit, you lose momentum. And the first of the pit stoppers lead the cars down in the second half of the field, fairly much. Now in the first race, the number 71 Maserati, which we just saw there with Trusoldi getting out, ran as high as third position. But unfortunately their pit stop was just a shade too fast, and that necessitated a drive into the pit, stop your car for 1 second and get going again. That threw it way down the order, in the eventual finishing order. But it's still super close after the withdrawal of the safety car. Pit window, yes, we know it's open. Which of these are going to be tempted to come in? Charlie Robertson, I think he'll stay out as long as he possibly can. He's just got that little comfortable cushion. It was 0.121 of a second on the start-finish line as Joe Osborne made an attack, but it's, I'd say, another half second and more that that's been extended by. Yes, as they go towards the Pirelli Bridge, it's very much Charlie Robertson making his escape in the Ginetta cars, number 100. But in turn, Joe Osborne is having to look in his mirrors. Are any of those going to come into the pits? Not this time. None at the top. 1, 2, 3, 7 cars. 8 cars have come into the pits. They've all decided they're going to have a similar tactic. Running in 8th at the moment is the Sean Walkinshaw Racing Nissan. Charlie Fagg on board, down from the northeast of England. And as you can see, when you come in, when you're running nose to tail out in the circuit, you decide to pit at the same time, you come out nose to tail. So of the front runners, it was really only number 9 that bothered to come into the pits. None of the top 7. Number 9, Duncan Heisman, will have handed that over to Luke Brahms. The Brahms family absolutely adore their racing, and Max Brahms, Luke's son, is the series manager for the GT4 European Series, so he can be very proud how it carries on growing, and certainly the experiment of splitting it to the Northern Cup and the Southern Cup has been a big success. So just look how tight the racing can be. The Ginetta, just you'll see it at the frontal shot now, squeaking its way clear, but Osborne and McLaren in second place, and Van der Ende in third, not separated by a great deal, and still behind the Matthew Graham trying to keep up. And likewise, the Aston Martin just coming into shot there. Matt Nicol-Jones now got Neil Stevenart in the Ginetta right on his tail. Peter Turting, and then number 23 coming through the back of the pack in 8th place overall. That's Charlie Fagg. So Matt Nicol-Jones peels into the pits, but the rest of the front runners carry on going. First to second, the gap is now 1.749 seconds. So a good lap there from Charlie Robertson to stretch it out some more. Matt Nicol-Jones arriving, will hand over to Will Moore. We'll have a half a minute of this race to go and play, and hopefully this time not get overexcited and go off into the gravel at Sheen Curve. He did in the first race, having worked his way forward. No easy thing on the Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch. Up from 12th to 5th. And in fact, third place was eminently possible, such was the rate of progress. But right now, third place is where you find the Ecris BMW M4. That finished second in the first race this morning, so it's got to try and get back past Joe Osborne's McLaren, or more to the point, maybe do it with a better pit stop, or when Osborne's less experienced teammate David Patterson takes over. And in turn, Roman Sarazan will get over. Freddie Hunt's had his run in the Brookspeed Porsche Cayman. That's made its pit stop. And that's second in the AM class. He's handed it across to Chase Owen, young American racer. Just see how hard this duo are pushing. Osborne out on the curbs. Ricardo van der Ende clouted the curbs at the previous corner at Sheen Curve, not trying to get a bit of height, just simply getting some height. Stayed clear of it out of Stirling's, but again, they decide not to come into the pit lanes. They're going to run really very much towards the end of the pit window. Number 100 Ginetta goes on to yet another lap, but they have to be in the entrance of the pits. They have to pass the pit entry line by the time we see 25 minutes on that top clock. 25 minutes left in the race. And of course, the Aston Martin you see there, number 62, was at the tail end of this battle, but he's made his pit stops. That's what's dropped him down the overall running to 12th place, but he can match them for pace. That's Will Moore, tucked in behind the BMW M4. Ricardo van der Ende, that's the number 8 car there. And looks so he can match it very comfortably on pace. So if that was a good pit stop, he might yet get to play with them when they've made their pit stop, made their driver change, and come back out onto the circuit. Max Cobalt looking very serious and studious. Well, there was a save. Collision between the Equipe Verschoor McLaren and Will Moore. How he managed to get it straightened back out again when the car started going sideways at a very quick point on the circuit. Let's have another look at that replay, or if there is a replay of that, but that was a very, very big save from Will Moore, only just taken over the number 62. Well, let's have a look, side by side. Here's the replay of what we don't call the slow part of the circuit. That is not how many people take the corner when they get to that point on the track. That was harum scarum as they approached Hawthorne. Little kink, and one car maybe went slightly straighter. And here's our race leader in, Charlie Robertson. His race is run, only as far as he's going to hand over that car to Tom Hibbert. They took victory in this morning's race. The second race, will Tom Hibbert, who started the first race from pole position, be able to take it on to victory. But it does seem that when the car's on the circuit, they have the legs, they have the pace that they require. So with the number 100 Ginetta in the pit lane, that means Joe Osborne is now leading the race in the 56 Tolman Motorsport McLaren. It also means Ricardo van der Ende is in the mix. There's Ricardo in third place overall. There's our new race leader, the grey McLaren of Joe Osborne. He'll be handing over to David Patterson. He will go as long as he possibly can to maximise his time in the car and maybe give as little time as possible to David Patterson. All meant in the nicest way possible, because Joe clearly very much the quicker driver in that pair. He's the coach, the mentor, David Patterson, and they seem to really enjoy racing with each other. So it'll either be this time around, in fact I think to be on the safe side it should be this time around. We have 2 minutes and 15 on the clock and they're lapping at 1 minute 34, so it'll be relatively close to fit in one more lap for Joe Osborne. What we are going to see is the Ginetta coming out of the pits. Tom Hibbert now on board, so he will go back into the effective lead of the race, but of course we have to wait for everybody to make their pit stops. Joe Osborne is going for one more lap. Crosses the start-finish line with 1 minute 53 seconds on the clock and a decent lap. He's got to do a decent lap and come around and get into the pit lane before that clock at the top of the screen counts down to 25 minutes and 00 seconds. Last garage in the pit lane is where the Ecris M Sport crew are. The M4 comes to a halt. Ricardo van der Ende is out. We saw Max Cobalt a short while ago getting ready. He's come forward. He's taking number 8 over. They came second in the opening race this morning. Let's see if they can do the same. I think they're set for third position, but don't forget David Patterson will take over the 56 McLaren with the best will in the world. He is not a match for some of these much, much younger drivers, several of them giving many decades away to David in terms of years on the clock. Number 100 now in the hands of Tom Hibbert, down out of Westfield into the dip at Dingledale, out the other side 75 Porsche from Orlando. Sport has got it wrong. The nose of the car actually over the curbs on the track at Clark Curve. He's got it slightly wrong coming through clearways. Doesn't look at that's traditional place to put it, traditional place to get bogged in. Waved yellow flags there as the dust is still hanging in the air. Are we going to have a safety car now? How is that going to affect those who are just making pit stops? They're fine, they'll be able to come back out. I don't think the pit lane closes. It does in quite a few series. Now here comes in with 20 odd seconds on the clock before he was too late, Joe Osborne to hand over to David Patterson. Pit window's still open. The white line in the background is the line that had to be crossed. So he's in with 20-25 seconds to spare. There's David Patterson running out to take over the car, but will we have a safety car? Just sitting, waiting. Safety car on standby, waiting for that number 75 Porsche to be cleared away. That was Maurizio Fondi at the wheel of that when it went for its rotation. In fact, it wasn't. It was Dario Cerati who'd just taken over from Maurizio Fondi. It's amazing how many times that happens. You get a driver who's been doing a great job for 25 minutes. Teammate gets in, a bit too hot under the collar, and makes a bit of a mistake, often on their outlap. But again, that's down to experience. Here's a replay of the end of the moment. It was, yes, quite a long lead into the gravel trap on the approach to Clark Curve there for the 75 Orlando Sport Porsche 911. Now we've got that, looks like the Peter Terting car, number 69. Daniel Rhymes has just taken that over from Peter Terting. Terting was fighting in the top 10 and the Sin is off as well. What's happened? Has someone rung a bell? The Pavlovian reaction, but that should be Edouard Anton. He's taken over from his sister Bianca Anton. Meanwhile, all is calm in the world of Tolman Motorsport, and David Patterson coming down the pit lane to rejoin the race. And as he does that, you know, he could come out in front. Because here's Charlie Robertson. No, it's Tom Hibbert. No, he's not going to come out in front. They'll all be very close, though. Crossing the start-finish line now. Left of your screen, you can see the car from second coming out of the pit lane. David Pattison. Wow, the fact he was second before they came in, but he's second when he's come out, but much closer. Don't worry, it looks like the safety car had gone off. It's just the point from which they're going to go out onto the circuit. That's on the Cooper Straight. So now we've got the Sin to be cleared out of the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend. We've got the 75 Porsche with its nose on the edge of the track and its wheels in the gravel trap at Clark Curve. And that means that the field will bunch right up. So any advantage the number 100 Ginetta has had will come down to nothing ahead of David Pattison, who will be running in second place, right on his tail any moment now. The safety car's picked up the Ginetta right behind. Wait, there's the 100 Ginetta. Right behind is David Pattison, who'll be thinking, this is all rather good, isn't it? And the race period that will be for Pattison to take through to the finish could be kept quite short, because it's going to take a while to remove the number 11 Sin. I think Bianca Anton's, in fact, she just handed back over to Edward. It's probably getting a bit hot in there. Edward getting a bit warm. Raised the flip-up door. This car built in Bulgaria. Yeah, I'm afraid it looks like Edward Anton spilling himself out. He's just going to have to wait for that car to be rescued. No flatbed has yet got out to the 75 Porsche. Big moment not so long ago for Will Moore, who had just taken over the 62 Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. We saw him have a door-to-door moment that involved with his car on the approach to Hawthorns, no less. A very quick part of the circuit, getting pushed almost diagonally, but somehow managed to get it back on the straight and narrow. Lost 2 or 3 positions, but that was certainly the biggest moment of the race up to this point. Safety car win. Safety car still out ahead of the field. The pit window has closed 3 minutes ago. All the cars out of the pit lane. Waved yellow flags all around the circuit, so a few cars to be rescued. Number 11, the Sin from the Paddock Hill gravel trap. Number 75 from the Clark Curve gravel trap. We've still got the 2 Allied Racing Porsche Caymans, 21 and 22, who collided together. They're tucked away just after the bridge as you come back off the Grand Prix loop into Clearways, and they're suitably far enough off the circuit to be out of the way. In fact, they're just out to the right-hand side of the shot behind that Pirelli banner. You can find all the next one along. There's the Street Art Racing Aston Martin 007, started by Jerome Tomei in the first race and Denis Dupont this afternoon's race. And there you can see the 75 Porsche sitting at the side of the circuit, rather forlornly, but on a very fast part of the circuit, that's not the best place to be sitting. So as we look at the field coming through, it's Ginetta, McLaren, BMW, McLaren, and then up into 5th place overall is the number 23. This had 370Z that started the first race from right at the back and has kept on working its way forward. So that's very good news for Charlie Fagg and the driver on board at the moment, Roman Sarazan. So a little hiatus at the moment, but for Tom Hibbert, he knows he's done a restart when a safety car has withdrawn already. He's got to do it all over again. This time he's got a driver with less experience. He's got David Pattison tucked in behind in the 56 Tolman Motorsport McLaren. And certainly with his race experience, you'd expect that Tom Hibbert would be able to pull clear of that. But it's all about just choosing the right minute when you know the safety car is being withdrawn to dictate the start, to flatten the throttle, to try and rock it clear and hope those behinds don't anticipate as well as you have. So there it is, Hibbert from Pattison, Cobalt from Graham. Fagg in 5th place, Neil Stevenart in 6th. Waved yellow flag still around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix loop. And the Sin has been pushed to the far end of the gravel trap on the exit of Gravel Hill Bend, Paddock Hill Bend. And likewise, the 75 Porsche has been pulled to the back of the gravel bed at Clark Curve. So I think we may yet get this race restarted this time around. The light's still flashing on the top of the safety car. They will go out. Message has just come on screen. Safety car in at the end of this lap. So For Tom Hibbert, he knows he's got to do it all over again. He's got to control it from the restart. He's got David Patterson tucked in behind. In third place, we've got Max Cobalt in the Ecris BMW M4. So the lights, there we are, out on the roof of the safety car. The Audi will peel into the pit lane. Tom Hibbert will back them up, and when he decides to go, he'll flatten his throttle and hope those behind don't react as well. There we are, the throttle has been put down. David Patterson lost a bit of ground immediately and now has to worry because he's got Max Cobalt with far more momentum coming onto the start-finish straight, overtaking the Audi that's trickling down the pit lane. And it looks like it might have a change for fourth place because the Fag Sarazan Nissan going up the inside. Sarazan makes it stick, and the GT4 McLaren of Saba Moore loses ground, so a little bit of place changing up the order, and I don't think we've seen the last of this 370Z Nissan either. It's going to try and keep honest. Well, David Patterson has left the door open very, very kindly at Graham Hill Bend. He knows he doesn't have the pace of Max Cobalt, and Roman Sarazan looks so he might be about to gain 2 places in 2 corners, and so he does. Ginetta still leading the race. Tom Hibbert giving chase. Ecris M4 in second place. A very, very good lap for the Nissan. Now, having been passed, David Patterson fancies getting back ahead of the Nissan. Doesn't quite manage to do it, but sticks himself back in front of the GT4 McLaren of Saba Moore. Now it really is getting very busy indeed because Matt Nicol-Jones handed over the 62 Aston Martin. It's had its moments in this race. It's lost a bit of ground. It's coming back now with Will Moore on board. He's got Soil Irie right on his tail in the number 26 Nissan. Sorry, 26 Ginetta. A few cars running out over the curbs as the field is trying to sort of change its order. No one's changing the order at the front though. Oh, that was a big, big wobble from the number 222 in front of number 7. And this is the tail end of the top 10. It's Nicky Leutwiler fighting really hard indeed with Jerome de May. Jerome de May in the silverish Aston Martin with all the lurid paint scheme on its haunches. Now David Patterson is coming under huge pressure. Saba Moore trying to go around the outside. Will Moore looks like he's going to make it stick on the inside. The black Aston Martin is on the outside line. Was a bit of contact, well certainly the tail of the GT4 McLaren went a little bit sideways. They got down to Graham Hill Bend. Maybe that was just because he was trying to come in on a much, much tighter line. And all along, Tom Hibbert is pulling clear 2.3 seconds over Max Cobalt, and Cobalt is now being pushed relatively hard by Romain Sarazan in the number 23 Nissan. I thought it might have a sniff of a podium, but that last lap and a half has been very good for it. Don't yet discount the number 62 Aston Martin. He's trying left, he's trying right. He's got past Saba Moore up into 5th place. Now he fancies getting past David Patterson for 4th. The Tolman Motorsport McLaren just holding on. Getting closer and closer to try and find a way past. Better off the curbing out of the corner. Saba Moore in the second of those McLarens is making a move on Will Moore in the Aston Martin. Aston Martin though on the inside line. Will knows Brands Hatch too well. Was able to slide his car out onto the line he wanted to reach anyhow and hold on to his position. So 5th position in the hand of Will Moore, 62 Aston Martin. Gained a place at the expense of Saba Moore, Hungarian racer, in the number 10 McLaren. Oh, another car taken. Looks like it's, I think, 1 second stop and go penalty. Just checking off the circuit, that's Daniel Rhymes. Yeah, David Patterson's fought long and hard, but he's just had a host of cars come past. One little mistake was compounded, and 3 cars went past him. The Ginetta number 26 from CMR. The number 4, Energy by ART Porsche Cayman, that was started in the first race by Alain Ferte. It's now in the hands of Gregor de Mussy. Yes, safety car out, waved yellow flag, SC boards around the circuit. They had 3 safety car periods in the first race. They got their second one in race number 2. Oh, there it is, the exit of Westfield, going down the slope to Dingledale, but clearly just ran out over the curbs, whipped it round, and Daniel Rhymes put that 69 Porsche. He's behind the safety fencing on the outside, just behind the tree at the moment, but out of the race. So frustrating. Great part of the circuit, but not when you've just got a little too deep. Perhaps clouted the curb on the apex on the way in to Westfield. That spits you out over the curb beyond on the exit. Well, let's have a look at what happened. It's a replay. Oh, did he hit a curb on the background? It's the Porsche that got into a bit of a snap. I think he hit the curb on the inside, started to twitch as he came back down to land, and it broke away from him at Westfield. Beautifully caught by the camera crews there. And that certainly would have turned the corner in his mind from a beautiful corner to quite a scary one as he went across the grass. Clattered the end it needed. Tell that he probably did gap in the barriers, so get the Cayman away from there. Behind that tree, safe. Daniel having a look, seeing if he could possibly help, and they're suggesting perhaps he might move behind the barriers. Daniel Rhymes from the Czech Republic. So weather getting better and better at Brands Hatch. It's going closer to spring weather. Always good to see the little ones here. A bit too young to take in the racing, but very wise to have those ear defenders on. Now the number 3 Porsche Cayman, one of only one from Pro Sport Performance, because the number 1 car from that stable, a very well fancied car, got damaged yesterday up at Druids. Number 3 outside the top 10. In fact, number 3 running down outside the top 20 at the moment in 21st position with Danish racer Kevin Rossell. Now still waiting for the stop-go penalty to be served by the car that has worked so hard to get up to 3rd position. That's the number 23 Nissan. You can see it there, Sean Walkinshaw Racing. You think the effect of a 1 second stop-and-go penalty? This is for not quite staying in the pits long enough. You have to have a minimum pit stop time. They exceeded it by a tiny amount, or didn't stay there for long enough by a tiny amount, and they've got to do the drive not almost a drive-through penalty, but it's drive-through stop for 1 solar second at pit exit, and you're flagged underway again. Lights still flashing on the roof of the safety car as the field is put around. Okay, so the rescue vehicle is dragging the number 69 Porsche from TM Racing in the opposite direction up the circuit. It's being dragged up to the top to be put behind the gravel trap, I would think, out at Westfield. Very fast part of the circuit. The other car sitting in the pit lane, you can see in the background of the shot there. People around, it's one of the Maseratis. It's car number 77, Romy Dall'Antonia. Pit lane. That looks like it's going to go no further. Now the big question, 10 minutes or so remaining in this race. Can it be 2 wins from 2 starts here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit for the number 100 Ginetta cars entered Ginetta G55? Shared in the order Tom Hibbert and then Charlie Robertson in the first race. In race number 2 it's Charlie Robertson who started, handed over to Tom Hibbert. Tom's going to try and bring it home. Tucked in behind he's got Max Cobalt in the Ecris M4 BMW. Third on the road is Romain Sarrazin, but we know he has to bring that number 23 Nissan into the pit lane for that 1 second stop and go penalty. That'll drop it way down the order. So Will Moore will suddenly find himself up into 3rd place in the number 62 Aston Martin. That was the position it was heading for in race 1 when Will got it slightly wrong and went out and stuck it in the gravel at Sheen Curve, bringing out one of the 3 safety car periods. One car that certainly lost ground through the course of this race has been the number 9 McLaren. We saw Duncan Heisman starting on the outside of the front row. He took a challenge for the lead. It didn't quite pay off, and now in the hands of Luke Brahms, it's fallen down again. I think a bit of a slow pit stop, down to 19th place overall. These McLarens take a lot of confidence to drive in a way that gets the best out of them. And maybe Luke in particular still just trying to get to that level of confidence. There's the 62 Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. That's the car that's 4th in the line of traffic behind the safety car. But I'm sure the team owner will be saying, getting a message to him from the pit wall to Will Moore saying, right, the car ahead, the Nissan has to serve drive-through penalty. The safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. There is the message on the screen. Out go the lights on the roof of the Audi. Charlie Robertson knew what to do in the first race. So did Tom Hibbert. It's Hibbert's chance again, and he's suggesting he might go even before they got to Sterling's, just to try and unsettle Max Cobalt. Tucked in behind Roman Sarazan in the Nissan. Does he know he's got that penalty, or is he going to see a pit board this time around to let him know he's got to come in? And already before they got to the Pirelli livery bridge, it was on the throttle as hard as he possibly could for Tom Hibbert, and he's put clear space between himself and the Ecris M4 BMW behind him. That's got a bit of a gap back to the third place Nissan. We know the Nissan has to come in, and that is being caught most definitely. Is it going to be a change of position between Moore and Moore? Sharper Moore in the McLaren had a big dive up the inside of Will Moore's Aston Martin. And now the next Aston Martin is right tucked in behind. That's number 61, the second car from Academy Motorsport. And at the wheel of that is Dave Robinson, who was so impressive in the first half of the first race. Down to Graham Hill Bend they go. It's a much tighter corner than they used to be. And it's still the Ginetta leading the way. Tom Hibbert, again, nose-to-tail racing pretty much the whole way down the order. There is first, there is second, there is third. That's how close it is. But of course, at 23, Nissan in third place owes us a drive into the penalty, stop, and get going all over again. That would put it outside the top 20, I would suggest. 7.5 minutes remaining. It's looking really more and more likely that it's going to be a 1-2 or a first win and a second win for the Ginetta Cars crew. Wave green flags, that means get going, get racing again, as we look at the Street Art Racing Aston Martin being pushed very hard indeed, but looks like it's got the KTM Crossbow behind it under control at the moment. Oh, and then just the 222 Porsche Cayman. Can't see where that has gone off the circuit, but for Nicky Leutviller, you can see the Swiss flag in his helmet. That's very frustrating indeed.
That's a car that was driven in the early stages of the race by Ander Villarino. Out of the car now and trudging away from it is going to be...
So that's a depressed driver up at Druids. That's why I can't see it. It's tucked away behind the trees. Race pack coming in. There's that 61 Aston Martin I was just talking about. So here comes the race leader up the hill. Should be faced with waved yellow flags. Yes, the trees are blocking my view of that 222 Porsche. And still the number 10 McLaren seeing what it can do. We've had the Nissan came in, served its drive-through penalty, drive-through, stop and get going. He's just rejoined, but that's dropped him down to third position. Up to third now goes Will Moore in the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin. Up to fourth goes Jarber Moore in the Keith Vachon McLaren. Up to fifth goes the second of the Academy Motorsport Aston Martins in the hands of Dave Robinson. Can Dave gain a position or two on the circuit? There is the shot looking down on our third place Aston Martin. Not far behind is the sister car, and between them is that a Keith Vachon white, blue and black 570S McLaren. And in the background of the shot, again, we get a sighter of the CMR Ginetta G55. Similar car to the race leading one, but run by different crews. And there's Tom Hibbert. 5.5 minutes or so remaining until the checkered flag can be unfurled to greet the race winner when he next comes past. But right now Tom Hibbert seems to have things under control. Track conditions look very good indeed. We haven't had people coming back on the circuit and putting lots of gravel. They've tended to put the car off and leave the car off through the course of this race. And hopefully this will just be pure racing all the way to the finish. Jarber Moore in the number 10. McLaren really fancies his chances of getting past Will Moore in the Aston Martin, the black Aston Martin with the sort of gold trim from Academy Motorsport. That's hanging on in third place, but each time he tries to go up the inside, Jarber Moore slightly compromises his quickest line around Paddock Hill Bend, but he's just doing what he can to see if he can unsettle the driver in third place. And Will Moore sometimes leaves quite a lot of space up the inside, and there was contact as number 10 clattered the rear of the 62 Aston Martin, which again has left the door open. Maybe he's decided he doesn't want to be battered around the rear, but he's got a maybe slight problem too, because his teammate is trying to come the inside. The 61 Aston Martin makes it through into fourth place, so having fleetingly been third, it now looks though the Will Moore's going to drop back another position. Yes, the Ginetta has gone past as well. So is there a puncture? Oh yes, there most certainly is. That would explain the loss of pace, and that came from the contact up at Druid. So it seems rather unfair, the car that's now in third place. Jarber Moore clatters the back, and let's take a look at the replay. This is Druids. There is the contact, there is the bodywork flying off, and already for Will Moore, as he comes down the hill, he just can't get the car turned into Graham Hill Bend. That's because he's already got a puncture in that left rear. No such problems though for car number 100, and that is our race leader Tom Hibbert. He's not managing to drop Max Cobalt at all, but he's got to just keep that advantage going for the next 4 minutes. Jarber Moore coming through now in third place. And apparently car number 40 has also gone off, so we're losing quite a few in these late stages of the race, and that's the Brookspeed Chase Owen. Well, there's one way of taking a corner, then it snaps, and off you go. Check out the gravel track, check out the tyre wall, unfortunately. That was the car, the Porsche Cayman from Brookspeed, started. That's at the exit of Surtees. He come rising up over the hill. That was Freddie Hunt who started, and that was Chase Owen, his American teammate, who went off with, annoyingly, there's 4 minutes remaining on the clock. The second Ginetta in the race, the number 26 entry from CMR, Classic and Modern Racing. He really has looked very good indeed in the hands of Neil Stevenard and Soil Irie, and it's all over the tail. Mike Hart started the 61 Aston Martin, now being driven, and a red flag. I think maybe got one car too many off the circuit, and that was the number 40 Brookspeed car. So, at the last time they passed the start-finish line, we know the car that has now won this race, it's been curtailed with just under 3 minutes remaining, is Tom Hibbert. Max Cobalt will be second in the Ecris M4, but I just wanted to check on countback whether that would still be Will Moore in third place if they go back to the start of the previous lap, or Jarbon Moore, who we saw giving him that puncture up at Druids. As I look, the Porsche Cayman trickling its way down the start-finish straight. He's seen the red flag and I think trying to work out where to pull off. So slight anti-climax there, I'm afraid, for Tom Hibbert. Certainly Max Cobalt was keeping him very, very honest indeed and trying to close in for those final few moments of the race. But such has been the combination of the car that has now come first in the opening race and first in the second race here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. The number 100, Charlie Robertson, started it in this race and it's been brought home by Tom Hibbert. The AM class has been won in the car that's finishing in 12th place overall. That is car number 93. That's Scuderia Villorba-Corse Maserati. And that's Manuela Gosner. So hats off to her because did the race without another driver. So came in, had to stand still, no driver change, and went back out. That's quite a physical session out on the circuit there for the number 93 crew on their own. 12th place overall, winning the Pro-Am class. Or in fact, in this category, it's the AM class. So, double win, red flag brought this race to a premature end, only lost about 3 minutes. We had several safety car periods, a little bit of damage here or there, but for the European GT4 series, it's another race on another iconic circuit and another race in which they've got yet more variety among cars, and the numbers of cars keep going up and up. So whatever they're doing something very right indeed. The GT4 European Series started the Northern Cup started its series at Misano in Italy a month ago, and now here we are, just completed the next one at Brands Hatch, and a lot of racing being performed, but Ginetta cars joined this weekend with the number 100 and showed everybody how it should be done. Didn't put a wheel wrong in the hands of Charlie Robertson or Tom Hibbert over the course of two races. A few other drivers getting slightly off this incredibly tricky, testing, old-school circuit, but when things needed to be done right, they very much were. And yes, now the screens have cut back to how I suggested, and Will Moore, though he got that puncture and dropped down the order because she had to go back to the start of the previous lap, has been positioned in third place overall. So Jarbon Moore in the McLaren that hit the Aston Martin will end up fourth, so he doesn't get a podium position with that clash at Druids. Well, I think that's pretty fair in many ways. That number 20 Porsche is on the wrong side of the pit wall. Frano Kovac didn't see he had to come into the pits, but he's kept himself out of the way, and I'm sure he's now just going to go back round, complete this lap and report back to the paddock. We'll wait for the drivers to hop out of their cars. They're all just still lined up as though there's going to be a restart, but I really feel with 2 and a bit minutes remaining on the clock, we have seen the checkered flag. So just to go through, Hibbert, well, we've just caught up with the winning car, and Dakota's been quick on her feet. She's caught up with Charlie Robertson.
Charlie, congratulations, a double win for today.
Yeah, I think it couldn't have really got any better, so very happy with that. A lot of safety cars tried to hold it back for us, but we just kept our heads and just kept going round and round really. Tom did a fantastic job at the end to not lose any places on the restarts. Yeah, perfect weekend. Car felt amazing. Team did a fantastic job. I can't really say any more. It couldn't have gone any better.
Thank you.
Always good to hear from Charlie Robertson, caught with Dakota. And we can guarantee he's taken 2 wins today, sharing with Tom Hibbert. And let's take a look at those results. Eventually winning the second race by 0.8 of a second from Max Cobalt and Ricardo van der Ende in the Ecris M4. Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones came away at least with something for 2 good showings. 3rd place in the Academy Aston Martin. Matthew Graham, Sharba Moore tried to get in on the podium with a little clash towards the end, but their Equipe Vischer McLaren ending up 4th place on countback. Mike Hart, Dave Robinson, the 2nd Academy Motorsport Aston Martin taking 5th. They'll be pleased with that. Then Neil Stevenart and Soil Irie 6th in their CMR Ginetta. Top car in the AM class was Manuela Gosner in 14th place overall. You can see that by the red denotation behind the 93. Luke Barnes and Duncan Iceman started on the front row but ended up down in 15th place in their McLaren. A few DNFs at the end, a couple of teammates off together. They'll have a lot to talk about from Allied Racing. But it was a race that provided action aplenty. But what we saw there was the sheer speed of the Ginetta G55 and in the hands of Charlie Robertson and Tom Hibbert. Very, very professionally driven. Kept honest by the Ecris BMW crew, but really they always had the answers to every question that was asked to them. So let's just take a look at the highlights. The 100 Ginetta was headed on the approach to Paddock Hill Bend, but very bravely kept his foot in there, Charlie Robertson, and pushed Duncan Heisman towards the outside. Duncan lost a few more positions, and as you can see, there was a bit of clattering down the field. That was the 111 Porsche giving a clout up the back of the 33 Andy Merrick McLaren. That would lead to problems. Not as many problems as when you clatter into your own teammate. 21 and 22 from Allied Racing will have plenty to talk about, because they brought out a safety car with their clash on the exit of Stirling's. On the restart, though, every time was just enough in the bag. Now, that was almost the moment of the race. Number 10, that wasn't to be the only time it clattered with the 62 Aston Martin. Great save there. Then it was pit stop time for the race-leading car. The Sin, suddenly in the space of a lap, a couple of cars went off. That was the Sin deep in the gravel. The 23 Nissan rose as high as 3rd, but they'd had an infringement in the pits. They had a drive-through penalty. That dropped them way down the order. But it was a great race, particularly if you were in a Nissan working your way up the order, but better still in a Ginetta leading the race. And there, late in the race at Druids, bit of contact, more contact there, puncture, but nothing could derail the number 100 Ginetta cars G55. Charlie Robertson and Tom Hibbert, 2 wins at Brands Hatch.